In this series, we're going to be taking a look at every single Hiya Exquisite basic figure in the Godzilla line, every repaint, reissue, 2.0, whatever they put out. We're going to be taking a look at them all in release order. Let's get started. Holy shit! Thank you all for your supreme patience. We are back once again, finally taking a look at the Hiya Toys Exquisite Basic Godzilla 1999 from the movie Godzilla 2000. Holy shit, guys. I am so sorry that this video has taken over a month to get out. This is actually the third time I am recording this video from scratch for you guys. That is part of the reason why this video has taken so long to come out. First go around, I just wasn't satisfied with the quality as I was extremely time crunched due to some side projects that came up. Second time around, about a week or two ago, I had some major technical issues. My microphone just decided to shit the bed during the review. I was really considering just publishing that version anyway, but honestly, I would rather just wait and put out a quality video. So we are finally back, technical issue free, time free. Third time's the charm. Let's get into it. So Godzilla 1999. This was a highly anticipated release from Hiya Toys. People were going apeshit over this figure in the lead up to its release. Even though this figure came out several months after the SH Monster Arts Godzilla 2000, the demand for this figure was unprecedented. This was really one of the only times I've ever seen pre-orders completely sell out for a Hiya Toys figure. The demand was just out of control. And with this figure finally arriving in hand at most retailers by now, I would say that this figure mostly lived up to the anticipation. This is an outstanding release from Hiya Toys, but there are a few rather questionable decisions made, particularly in the engineering. But what is unquestionable is that this is probably their best Godzilla sculpt yet. The sculpt on this figure is simply incredible. A pattern that we've been noticing with their figures, especially in their Toho line, is that every figure they put out, they just keep improving on the sculpt work, the fine details in particular. And this figure is no exception. Just about everywhere you look on this figure, you're gonna see a different texture on the figure. For example, on the legs, look at all of these excellently defined scales on the thighs here. This is a level of detailing that is superior to even the GMK figure. But then you move your way to the upper body and the skin texturing is completely different. All of these excellent, sharp, large spikes protruding out the side as it gradually transitions to the chest with a unique texture pattern that's even finer than the thighs. This is again different than what we see on the shoulders, which also feature some small spikes sticking out as it gradually transitions to a smoother forearm. Just look at these dorsal plates. They managed to perfectly replicate the long, sharp, angular design of Godzilla 99's dorsal plates here. They look incredible. And in fact, a really subtle detail is that they're actually asymmetrical. The spines on one side are completely unique to the spines on the other side. And just look at this head. It looks incredible and so close to the suit. I've said this time and time again with these Toho Hiya figures, but this really does look like the suit walked off the screen and onto your table. This figure just nails the look and aesthetic of Godzilla 1999. Incredible. Top marks on the sculpt as usual. Talking about the paint very briefly, this is going to be very similar to what we see from other base Toho Godzillas. It's a pretty standard affair from what we're used to at this point. The entire figure has this base coat of a very light charcoal gray. I really dig what they did with the toes here, though. The toes are going to be colored in this yellowish off-white, but it's going to have this dark brown airbrushed back from the base of the foot. Creates this excellent gradient. Looks incredibly natural. The hands are going to have a similar effect, but not quite done as well. It's going to be that same yellowish off-white, but the brown transition here is done with a wash rather than an airbrush. Makes sense given how small these fingers are. As for the head, excellent paint job as usual. Again, the standard Hiya affair here. All the teeth are going to be done exactly the same as the hands, with all of the teeth painted in that yellowish off-white, and then a thick coat of that brown wash applied to all the teeth. The interior of the mouth is going to have almost this tomato orange. It's a almost desaturated orange. It's pretty natural looking. Very nice. We also get a good look at the sculpt work on the tongue and the roof of the mouth. As for the eyes, this isn't necessarily mind-blowing at this point. For as large as these eyes are, I kind of would have thought they would have been able to cram in more detail on these eyes, but as they are, they look just fine. Just standard 3-paint design, with the base of the eye being that yellow, the iris being a light brown, and the pupil being black. But what I will be raving about are, once again, these dorsal plates. Man, I mean, just look at them. Do I really need to explain why these look incredible? Well, I'm going to anyway. Hiya really nailed this frosted tip metallic crimson red. These spines are so eye-catching, and the transition from, again, that more skin tone in the base of the spine fading into that crimson red on the tips. Absolute top marks here once again on the paintwork for the dorsal plates. And this crimson red is actually going to be subtly applied about halfway down the tail. You see it thickly applied about a quarter of the way down, and then it actually does continue. It just gets subtler and subtler until it completely phases out around the halfway point. So the paint and detail work is exquisite as usual. Well, how about the articulation? So starting with the head, this is actually pretty interesting. The head might only seem like it has 2 joints, and that being that the head has a separate joint right here above the neck. You can freely rotate and move around just like that. That is a ball joint. The jaw, as we saw earlier, does open. The big fat tongue is on a hinge. And the base of the neck, similarly, is on its own ball joint. Can spin around, it can move around. It's got a lot of clearance despite how thick the neck is. I mean, just look at that. But what a lot of people don't seem to realize is there's actually a 3rd joint here in the neck. This neck piece is 2 separate neck pieces. Look at that. So this is a separate joint. It's independent from the top of the head here. It can also move down about that far. And there are cuts in the neck sleeves to accommodate the spines. So when all 3 are working together, the head can look up about that far. Very nice. And look down about that far, which again, very nice. You do get some gaps, but that's just part of the design, really. You get some very nice side-to-side movement out of the head. Very impressive here. The arms are pretty standard from what we see from Hiya Toys. The shoulders can move out about that far. Very nice. They can rotate all the way around. There is a cut at the bicep. It can technically swivel all the way around, but due to the muscles here on the shoulder, kind of have to force it. I'm not going to do that right now. Elbows double hinged. It can straighten out about that far. It can crunch a decent amount. Not quite as much as 1991, but that's mostly just due to the muscles here on the arms. And the wrists are on the standard double ball joint system, so you can rotate them above and below the wrist. They're completely fine. Tolerance is just fine on these arms. Now the waist is actually very similar to GMK. It's one long barbell joint that allows for some very good range of movement as it pivots around the lower body. I mean, look at that. Despite how large and cumbersome this design is, they got some great movement out of this waist, and even some hidden sculpted detailing there. Incredible. If I had any issues here with the waist movement, it would be that I feel it's a bit of a wasted opportunity not to give this figure the same engineering that Godzilla Evolved had. This large middle dorsal plate, I feel like could have been on a separate ball joint right here that would allow you to fill out the gap in the back. And if they had done that, man, this figure would have been a contender for Figure of the Year on its own, because that's something we've never seen before on a Toho figure in particular. Taking a look at the legs now, this is a pretty standard affair for Hiya Toys. So the legs are on ball joints at the thighs. They can splay out about that far, go into the body about that far. They can rotate all the way around, but again, due to the sculpt, it's a little bit of a hindrance. You kind of have to force it. I'm not going to do that right now. The knees are double hinged. Now, what's interesting here is that the hinge on the upper leg actually collapses in on itself, but it doesn't provide a ton of range regardless. But it is interesting to see them experiment more and more with this type of engineering. But with both hinges, you get the knee bent about 90 degrees, and it straightens out about that far. You can rotate the lower leg just a little bit, as it appears to be some kind of ball joint hinge down there. Speaking of ball joints, the ankles are on ball joints, and I gotta say, these are possibly the best ankle joints we've seen on a Hiya figure yet. So the ankles can actually move down a very impressive amount, can move forward a very impressive amount, and can have and has incredible rocking motion, side to side. Again, these feet in particular are incredible. Great job, Hiya. I hope to see more ankle movement like this going forward. Moving on to the tail now. This is the biggest head scratcher I have on this figure. So for about half of the tail, it articulates very similar to what we saw on GMK and Godzilla 1991. Excuse me. So the tail has an excellent range of movement. Again, about halfway up. All these joints have very deep movement. You can get some beautiful curves. But then when you get to the back half of the tail, that's where they change the joint system. These are all still ball joints, but they're very, very shallow ball joints. There's not a lot of movement there. I did pop this off intentionally to show you that. Tail hold together very well regardless. But in terms of range of movement, for about this segment onward, that's the most you're going to be able to curve the tail. The tip of the tail in particular. Very odd. This isn't a bad tail system. You can still get some beautiful curves out of this figure, but it's nowhere near as impressive compared to the last two Toho figures. So I'm not sure why they decided to take a step backwards here. I certainly hope that they go back to the previous tail engineering for future figures. But yeah, it is what it is on this figure. Again, it's not terrible. If this was the first instance of an articulated tail, I would have said this was the best articulated tail that Hiya Toys had given us. But unfortunately, the last two Toho figures from Hiya blow this one out of the water in terms of the tail engineering. So I'm not quite sure what happened here, although I do have a theory on what happened. More on that in the closing thoughts. Moving on to accessories now. Godzilla 1999 only comes with an alternate pair of hands. This is pretty standard from what we've seen from Hiya these days. Now that is actually not all this figure has to offer. This figure does have a UV activated paint gimmick in the head. The entire interior of the mouth, all of that orange paint is UV activated. The tongue, the roof, and the bottom of the mouth. And also the eyes, that off-white in the back of the eye there, that is all UV activated paint. Now this is only applied to the eyes and the mouth. This is not applied to the teeth, the claws, the toes, or the spines. Only the eyes and the mouth. It's very cool to see that this is becoming more of a standard feature from Hiya figures, even if they don't market it. You kind of have to go looking for it. It's like a little Easter egg on every figure. It's very cool to see. All right, let's talk about the size now. This figure is going to be a standard 7-inch tall figure from Hiya Toys. As for length, this figure is going to be approximately 13 to 13 and a half inches long when the tail is completely straightened out. Very nice. Moving on to size comparisons, here is Godzilla 1999 next to Hiya Toys' Godzilla 1991. Man, what a pair of excellent looking Godzilla figures. It is incredible to see firsthand the evolution of their sculpt and engineering work on display here. And these figures aren't even that far apart. It's crazy to think about what we might be seeing next year, 2 years from now. Really looking forward to what else Hiya's got in store for us. Here's Godzilla 1999 next to Hiya's GMK, a Titanic Creations figure, Yongary in this case, a Super 7 Super Kaiju figure. If you were bold enough to drop the pretty penny on the SH Monster Arts Mechaguirus, here is how these two shape up together. And honestly, yeah, this is a really nice pair. And here's Godzilla 1999 next to Hiya Toys' King Ghidorah 91. Almost as impressive as the banana for scale. Wrapping things up now, guys, this is by far one of Hiya's best. Wouldn't exactly say it's my personal favorite, though. There are a couple weird decisions here that really hold this figure back. The tail being the main offender here. It's really odd why they decided to limit the tail articulation when they've already perfected it on two other figures. Now, as mentioned, I do have a theory for this. I have absolutely nothing substantial to support this theory. I'm going to break the turntable footage here for a second to bring back GMK. So, GMK. I really like this figure a lot, but I do have a big issue with it that's only cropped up over time. And that would be that the material that they used for this figure is really, really inconsistent. Last time I articulated this figure was the video I made for it, I don't know, 2 months ago now, give or take. And in this time, this figure has stiffened up to an extreme amount. The head still moves fine, the legs move fine, but the arms are incredibly stiff. Look at that. I can still articulate this, but I'm worried about how fragile these joints have become just from tightening up. The tail in particular. Just listen to that. Ooh, like I don't even want to move the tail because I'm worried that it's going to break. Godzilla 2000, I can pretty confidently say is not going to have this issue in the long run. I've had this figure in hand since its original Chinese release, and I have never once had to heat this thing up to get it to pose. Everything has been buttery smooth, the tolerances have remained perfect, more so than even the 1991 Godzilla. So my theory is that maybe they dumbed down the tail articulation for the sake of long-term stability. If that is what they've done here, you know, that's a trade-off I suppose I'm willing to take. If it's not what they did here, though, if that's a genuine mistake, unfortunately, I suspect that this will still be the case with the upcoming Godzilla 2002, the Kiryu Goji. That figure seems like it uses the same general body as this figure. So I suspect that tail will be identical to this tail. And if that's true, that's a little unfortunate, but hey, it is what it is. Again, this tail isn't terrible, just a bit of a step back. And that's what makes this a bit of an odd figure. Beyond the tail, yeah, this figure looks incredible. The paint and the sculpt work is arguably their best so far. I think this figure got a little overshadowed by the SH Monster Arts. The SH Monster Arts Godzilla 2000 is without a shadow of a doubt the best SH Monster Arts Godzilla figure in the entire line. The engineering on that figure is just insane. And it certainly doesn't help that this figure was so highly anticipated for so long that, you know, it's a little easy to get this in hand and go, oh yeah, this is nice, rather than, holy shit, this is the best thing ever made. It's not the best thing ever made, but this is one of the best figures in Hiya's lineup, for sure. Here's hoping that we see an Origa on the horizon, as that would be actually insane. Thank you all for joining me in this video, guys. That's about all I have to say now. Once again, I am so sorry for the insane delays here. Videos should now be getting back on track with one small caveat. The next Hiya video is supposed to be the battle-damaged Ghidorah 1991. That is currently the only Hiya figure I don't actually have in hand. My brother is holding on to my copy, but I don't actually have the battle-damaged Ghidorah 91 yet. I will be getting that in a couple weeks. So, we're going to have to get a little creative here with the videos until I get that figure in hand in, again, hopefully a week or two from now. Videos will still be coming on Monday, however. I do have a couple ideas for what I can do as a placeholder. I'm really hoping that my Super 7 LED Burning Godzilla arrives this week. It should be shipping any day now. And if I get that in hand, that will be Monday's video. I am so excited to get that figure. I think it looks great. It'll be a fun video. If that doesn't show up on time, I got some Playmate figures I just got in that I've been wanting to make a video on. So we got some options here, but we'll find out next week. Thank you all once again. Till next time, guys. See you.